Hi, welcome back to Trappist Transfer, an actual play podcast using the Eclipse Phase RPG, set in a fictional sci-fi future of Earth and humankind. Less so Earth now, though. Watch our backlog. I'm Will Blackmore, and I'll be your game master, weaving a web of intrigue for our players. Ashley and Bradley playing Truth Seeker, Mark Jondal playing Comms 3, Evie playing Kaster, and not Connor Crumley tonight playing Penelope, but we will have Bill Bryan, our patron, shall we say, playing Shirley Maines, the pilot.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, God. Let's see. Leaving us off last time, we had just together narrowly navigated through turning the ship. I believe Kaster and Charlie were up, like, handling the pilot seats, making sure to kind of guide things along. We had Comms 3, who was vital at turning the power back on.
And venting prevents explosion.
Absolutely. I like that. It should be a t-shirt.
And it was wicked hard. I felt, like a solid connection to you.
Yep.
All right, moving on.
The warmth in that room is just delightful. I believe.
It's on fire.
Comms 3, unfortunately, there was some human death or some biological damage, perhaps, done to some of the crewmates who came in to help you out. R.I.P. We'll see. Who knows what their future holds. But, like, you remember being dragged out.
We're going to talk about creepy sun gun.
No, never again.
Okay.
I just broadcasted it all to you while we were all
Here
stressing
comes
out.
the sun gun.
Yeah.
I totally want
It's
that
all
now.
right.
Ooh, can we, like,
We can all sleep
slow
easy.
down? Can we, like, slow down the song and just make it really creepy?
Yes, we can do that.
Here comes the sun.
Or you show the like it's shooting the thing off and then like slow motion of like people's like skin, burning off. Like that scene in Terminator.
Holding on to the chain link fence.
Jesus Christ. Right when the lyrics go, and it's all right.
I love you guys.
Yeah.
I really want this to happen. Actually, can we make like a Trappist Transfer like fanfic music video?
And we're on the FBI wanted list.
Yeah, well,
Or
that's
watch
fine.
list.
That's fine. Just watch what you Google.
Yeah.
Go into
Took us that long.
incognito mode. I know, we're on the list right now.
People just edit Will going, and I really want this to happen, and I really want this to happen, and I really want, like, over.
Happen.
Deep fakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's a deep fake now. Nothing is real.
Anyway, you were in astrometrics,
Yes.
integral in feeding off like guidance data to the pilots.
That was mainly Andine. I was looking through old photos of the sun.
Just scrolling through.
It's true.
You're like, ooh, swipe right. So tell us what,
left.
in Truth Seeker's words, tell us what Truth Seeker discovered or what you saw.
Truth Seeker realized that the pattern for the solar flare, the sunspot that the solar flare was creating on the sun, was too perfectly shaped, and that it looked like really intentional and like geometric.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized that if this is something that's intentionally there, maybe it was also has been there the whole time since the last solar flare happened. So they asked Andine about, because Andine is a
Solar physicist.
solar physicist.
Yeah.
Right. Words.
Words. Science words.
Science words. Because Andine is a solar physicist. They had been tracking the sun the whole time, so they like let me into their log while they were like watching the astrometrics things, and I looked back through it and saw not just that the geometric shape had been there the entire time between solar flares, but that it was there for the first solar flare, and before that something plunged into the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a dark spot that moved in and across. And then while I'm doing that the whole time, I was hearing like all these like whispering voices, and finally after I like made my discovery, I listened to them, and I found out that there are physical bodies on a ship in our pathway that we are taking that are calling out for us with distress.
That sounds real ominous. Physical bodies.
Well,
Well,
they're not
they
downloading
have heat
consciousness.
signatures, right? I remember that, like,
I don't know about the heat signatures. I just know that I got passed a note and then I asked a specific question and I got a specific answer.
Got it.
That is storytelling.
I'm riveted.
I just think we need to recalibrate the sensor array.
You're like, sorry, science word! Science word!
I'm gonna science these words.
I mean, yeah.
I have
Feel
some
free.
science words of my own.
Hit us.
Please do, because I also wanted to ask you a
Comms
couple
3 is concerned about the cortical stack of the person that perished in the reactor.
things.
It's fried.
What is Comms 3 going to do about this?
Well, it kind of just dawns on it, sort of like after kind of the heat of the moment is over, and suddenly like certain things start to occur, and not just that it thought of these things, but that these things matter to it.
You're feeling empathy?
Empathy, compassion, concern. Yes.
As opposed to
I'm
what
trying out
spacey
concern.
humans.
You're just trying it on.
I'm trying on concern.
I like this.
I think that's actually fairly accurate. Like I'm trying it on. I'm trying on a lot. Like I'm trying on voices. I'm trying on appearances. I'm trying on
Emotions.
modes of thinking.
Oh, okay. Today I will be trying caring for others.
Tomorrow I'll be
Today I'm trying not giving a shit. Fuck you guys.
That's every day.
directly harming my
Can't wait
surroundings.
till I use this in real life.
I know.
So like today's mode is just like the arm hurricane. Ryan is like spiraling. I'm trying really hard not to hit the microphone.
You did a
twice.
good job.
Thank you, but it's gonna look weird. I'm just gonna like chicken wing it on this side. But oh, the robot's damaged. So,
Yes, the robots are doing jumping jacks.
so so you remember that one of the two NPCs, for which names I cannot remember right now because I
That makes two of us.
yeah, it'll come back to me. Character red shirt number 1 and
red shirt
number
number
2 for
two.
now. Maybe you wrote it down. You're a really good bard.
Let me check.
If not, we'll get back to it. At any rate, like one of them dragged you out, right? Because you were kind of blacking out, for lack of a better term for you, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I was starting to shut down.
yeah, the radiation and everything
Yeah.
had finally gotten to your core, and you were real close to. You were actually real close to physical death at the very least, and question mark on hard drive death. But here's the thing
Delicious death.
that maybe. Like we've meta talked about that maybe the group hasn't is not necessarily
Which I can't separate anymore. I don't
Yeah,
know what I've
doesn't
said
matter.
because I blabber
we're
all the time.
we're a collective like a collective rough draft is how I say it. Like
Yes.
so everybody here, right? Everybody has backups, right? At least that's the idea. At least of the primary crew. How do you back up a whatever this is in terms of comms 3? Yeah, don't worry about it. I did somewhere. I've got it in here. So one of the pieces we have is no one's really sure like what would happen if whatever body comms 3 is inhabiting stops working.
You can test the theory if you want.
Well, and like, has comms 3 backed itself
Well,
up?
what
Is
we
that
find
part
out.
of its
Well,
processes?
the question is, did I have to vacate the space, or was I copied over into this? That's the question, and that's something that only you can answer.
Well, and the hard part about
Because
that
of course I'm
answer-
going to say I'm still on the, I'm still there.
Right.
Because I would copy it. I wouldn't copy and delete unless that's just what you do. Because I've been thinking about this a lot too. Philosophically speaking, to avoid problems like we have over here.
Problem.
Whoa! You're like, this one.
No. It's
Ryan.
no.
The
Okay.
truth is the only solution.
No. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about how many
Ding, ding, ding.
how many versions of people are allowed. Like when is there? I think we kind of grazed this as a sociological, like, how would society view someone who copied themselves? And when someone is like if it's a teleportation, like you're just copied over, then there's two versions of you, so one of them has to go, right?
So, good question. This will, I think, lead into a good, like the warm-up conversation. So, one, like we've talked about already in the past, that votes, right, on a democratic level, only one vote per entity, like per consciousness, right, or whatever that is. So, like that alone is the precedent, legal precedent that's set. So you know that the crew has backups, and the backups kind of live within the Hobbit Hobble. Or Gobble Hobble, each into their own. Your own, like, internal space, right? Like,
right.
You know, stored within that. A lot of people don't have those, right? The vast majority, that's just the crew at the moment, maybe had some. Although it's questionable, like...
Persons of practical importance.
Yeah, exactly. Persons...
Yeah, you don't want the ship's mechanic to just expire and not have another mechanic. No, redundancies, Yeah,
redundancies.
I understand redundancies.
Redundancies. So... But there's a reason why those copies aren't allowed out into the hold proper, right? Unless they are like the primary designation of that consciousness, because I think there is still this cultural piece of and maybe it's an internal one as well at an individual level. Like, do you want another you wandering out there, and how long before that you becomes other than you?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's why, like, when we talked about it, like, earlier in the game, we talked about people kind of, like, looking down on me a little bit for it. And I actually put that, like, took the bad trait black mark because of that, which basically just gives me, like, a little bit of a shit for social checks against people because they have, like, this, like, predisposed opinion of me because I'm a copy.
And I'd say that connects with you, too, because you are, like, especially now with, like, a weird merged question mark, like, you act even a little bit like two people, but annoyingly of yourself. So I think that's like, socially how that connects back.
Okay, so I have just
double down.
Real fast, I heard.
Oh, all I was gonna say is the one thing that's like glaring in my brain is like you totally could have, and there might totally be a comms backup, but given the nature of your sort of consciousness birth and like your intense learning process because you are brand new, is if we go to that backup, what does that even look like? You know,
it is probably not
well. Maybe
correct. You're right. Like when did it happen?
No, this is a good point because there was a ton of disruptions in communications and probably data things. I doubt that I'm live updating.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially since the ship is like slowed down.
So maybe that backup it would be comms 3. Before a lot of
4 hours ago, which is phenomenal.
A ton has happened to me, like inside of me as well.
Aww.
I'm also
trying empathy.
I'm also thinking very fast because I have that digital speed thing. Like I'm processing a lot of stuff in a very quick manner.
So I'm going to say that you are aware of, so for you, it's not so much like you have copies, because you don't think that you can copy whatever you are yet, right? Because from what we described, like your neural network is sort of comprised of all of these different parts of the ship, right? The pieces that you sort of like have consumed, if you will. And you felt, remember when you like sleeved into this robot, you felt that like shrinking of that capacity that you had before. And so like this is kind of like an appendage. Like you're right now an appendage of maybe the whole of comms 3, I would say. And so yeah, like there'd be some levels of like you may never be able to like back up until you rejoin, right? But if you died right now, like it'd be that level of like, okay, you've lost, like maybe the overall body of comms 3 would lose an element of itself for a while. I don't know, whatever that looks like.
I think, and this is like, in all due respect, I think we should literally stop talking about this right now because I would love to see this played out in, like, within game as a sort of like maybe Mark, you probably don't really even know what would happen. So I mean, I'm just putting that out there. Like this is rife with possibility.
Absolutely,
show it. Don't say it.
Exactly. Well, I was kind of feeding out to see what people were thinking in terms of like overall conception or perspective perhaps on what the copies and things are. So that kind of tells me a little bit of like also perhaps why Comps3 is working like that. But I do have already ideas that are behind the work, so it may happen to you. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
I will follow along.
But you asked a question, so you come to a little bit, right? You're out in the hall. You were definitely like,
And I'm like, what's happening to Gary?
damaged, right? Gary number
How's Gary?
I had very specific names.
I just made that one up. I'm not trying to. I'm not even trying to remember.
Oh, Gary. We'll call it Gary for now.
I'm gonna call him Gary forever now.
Oh, but one of them had dragged you out. The other one had also sort of collapsed earlier, right? You hear a little bit in the distance, or you sense from your network, your ad hoc network, that one of the other maintenance robots is sort of approaching because you had called it. If you remember, but you kind of slide over to Gary, who's on the ground, and the Gary number 2. The other person is holding Gary.
You're saying they're both named Gary?
If we're throwing out a random name because I can't remember the NPC right now, then they're both
Gary
Gary.
and
Barry and Gary.
Gary.
Cool. I'm down with that.
Gareth.
Gary and Gary. So Barry is holding Gary, and it is kind of in tears, right? And maybe Comps3 is that. That's where they're like,
I am and will always be your friend.
oh, you're trying empathy.
Yeah.
It's cute.
You think he can make whale noises?
Different movie. That was
Last week I really thought we were going to end up doing
No,
one
but
of
that
those
was the
scenes where
sequel
you,
to it.
try to fix it and end up burning
That's why they were on
body or
Earth.
something
Ooh,
like that. You know what I
that'll
mean?
still happen, yeah.
2 sequels later.
You try to fix it, you go to shock it, and
I
all of a
mean-
sudden it's on fire.
Right, I try to do a medicine check and get a triple failure and just burn him alive.
I was considering that, but now here.
All right.
I would say you kind of go over to scan to kind of try and read to see how it's doing, right? And you're dragging yourself over the spider.
I can probably low
not
jack
working
the cortical stack.
You for a sense of scanning that you feel that it is dead. The cortical stack is gone.
Ooh,
Yeah.
the radiation got it. Okay.
You feel in your own sense your own level of damage with your body and the equivalent of your hard drive, right? Or whatever that is, your thumb drive, whatever holds you. But at the other little spider bot rolls up to you and kind of just sits and waits.
Barry,
Yes.
what do we do now?
I'm gonna go take the body back to the cloning bays and see if they can get a genetic sample and grow another body for Gary, and hope that the backups are still viable in the hold.
Oh, he has a backup?
For crew, we all have backups, but admittedly, we haven't talked to them in a while.
So he won't remember any of this.
Not since he last uploaded. Damn.
Ouch. The truth hurts. Goddamn, truth seeker.
Sometimes it burns.
Someone's fierce today.
Ouch.
Y'all are hearing this over the comms too, because Comms3 doesn't really know how to, or that they should at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely said that to you.
I'm taking it.
I'm at the controls being like, you fucking mute this shit.
Can't mute the truth, Charlie.
You
No,
can't
but
mute
you
the-
can
can't mute
tune
the
it
drama,
out.
though.
And I guess, Gary looks at you and was like, well, we could take you to the maintenance bay, or you could try and offload your consciousness, but I don't know if that would work for you. And take this robot. It's just a robot. No offense.
Oh, you mean change over sleeve into the new robot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to definitely try to do that.
Yeah. So I'd say that robot kind of comes over and it starts kind of just dragging you off. You need to go find a better data port to facilitate your little USB to USB. Isn't going to work out terribly well.
Oh,
Hopefully it's not melted.
It's just a 3
All your
prong.
ports are melted.
Oh, baby.
That's a personal problem. So I would say, like, because this was a little bit before, like, where we came back in for the sort of debrief. I would say, like, I'll fast forward it a little bit. Like, you do spend probably get a half an hour to an hour in a maintenance bay. They do have to change out some ports and whatnot, but they can basically connect you in, and you just port into the new body, and you see what was you a moment ago, looking molten in a lot of parts and scorched. I don't know how you respond to that.
Is the speaker okay?
You have found new speakers, and you also now have connections to the comms.
Speaker of the dead robot.
Yeah. Of course, the speaker would have had to have worked, or I couldn't have said all that stuff to Barry. So
it's all through Morse code. You've just been tapping out this whole time. It's really annoying.
Got it.
So you show up to the sort of debrief meeting back at Astrometrics where we left last time, where Truth Seeker had discovered the the ships, the communication from the ships, and at this point, Charlie, you kind of you're aware that it's going to take about at this pace, I think about 16 hours or so to kind of round the sun and get to that location, get to that point.
But where are we on track to the degree where we can kind of set some automatic settings and feel pretty comfortable that the ship itself will make minor adjustments as needed?
Yeah, at least for the intermediate, half a day as you kind of get closer, right? You're going to be passing by some inner planets, heading in towards the sun and rounding it, but that you're going to want to be in the pilot seat when you're hitting that,
of course,
starting to slingshot around it.
Well, I'm going to keep my my hand device kind of at the ready, that sort of I can monitor the ship's sort of what would the word be? Astrometrics? Basically the coordinates.
Yeah.
And just kind of keep an eye on things. But ultimately, I'm taking a deep breath, stepping away, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Actually, that is where I was leading it to everybody to ask, hey, what are you doing in these intervening hours? Kind of check with that. So you're very much aware that you have a special uplink to the bridge that goes beyond what normal people kind of get access to. So you've got some level of control from your comms equipment, your iPhone, whatever it is. But it's the equivalent of doing a little game on your phone. You're not capable of really handling the ship. You can get updates and you can kind of do some minor adjustments.
Yeah.
But, so you got that.
I would like to know what we're going to do about the fact that when we get around the sun, it's going to have another clean shot at us. We can't just assume that it takes a certain amount of time to charge up. We have to have some kind of plan in place for the event that this could happen to us still, even if we're out of the clear right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are we all together, by the way?
Yeah, so you're all physically together at this point.
We're all
in the Astrometrics room. Yeah, so you've got the Dr. Strangelove table in the center, kind of thing, or some variation on that, right? And the holographic display up. But as you're talking about this, and maybe you excuse yourself, maybe you're hanging out for a minute or two before you're getting things together.
No, I'm hanging out.
Cool,
for sure.
So Andine definitely mentions we have 2 data points. That does not make a pattern. We have no idea how this thing operates.
That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just assume that nothing's going to happen. I
don't think we are. So Andine kind of it does some quick calculations, kind of you see actually up in front of them, working some things out. And was well, we are going to be traveling significantly faster as we head around the sun, especially from that slingshot. It's likely that we will be going at a pace that should outrun at least normal flares. Should being the operative word there. We knew this was a risk, taking this course of action.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to potentially get a shot off at us. This thing obviously seems fairly intelligent, whatever it is, at least to be targeting us. But
are you saying there's nothing we can do about it, essentially?
This is the best case scenario. We don't have a lot of choices.
I totally agree with that. What are we going to do about this ship of people, though? Like, are we going to have to slow down and pick them up?
Can we?
Are we going to pick them up?
Slowing down is not an option.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Tether them. Yank them with us.
No, I mean you say that, and Andine kind of like gets this look and kind of goes like, okay, well, we could
like latch onto them as we whip past.
I mean, I feel like anything like that,
Just rip the side of their ship off, right?
or ours. I mean, it's structural integrity.
It's a risk, but
wait,
what life is life.
What are we saying? What are we suggesting that we're latching onto?
The ship of survivors that is out there. The human survivors who are requesting our aid.
Andine goes, we should be able to create
I'm
some
not saying we have to get
some
them.
nano-weaved nets to a certain extent, kind of like catch them. I don't know, like we'd have to tether to very like particular points, but we're gonna be going by real fast.
Well, so not only like the integrity of their ship, our ship, whether or not what we blow out there to latch onto them survives, but we going fast enough, we try to yank them with us. Is the contents of that ship going to survive? Like how are they in there?
Again, we don't have a lot of options. This is the only one that we have.
If we choose to try to save them.
Right.
Well, realistically, we're their only chance as well because they're dead. Where are they going? Their ship does not have the capability of ours. It's not going anywhere out of our solar system.
I'd like to take a step back and talk about the sun and what you saw. So we keep saying like it's only a matter of time before it attacks us. We need to figure out what this is. And if we can communicate with it.
How would we do that?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, like, comms, do you have any ideas? Does Pollux have any ideas?
We can't reach Pollux right
Wait.
now. We don't have contact with Pollux.
Did I know that?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And Kaster gets like upset.
Also, maybe Charlie hasn't been thinking about it.
And I look at you and in a weird way that you may or may not misinterpret, but basically it's like, whoa, you're showing emotion.
Well, yeah, but like not upset, like sad, but like pissed and quiet.
Oh no, I'm still
Okay,
sad.
got
Like,
it.
whoa, you're
Cool.
showing emotion.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I would say like Charlie probably hasn't thought about it too much. Like certainly knew that with the power issues, communicating with Pollux was different and off. Things were kind of like low key. But Penelope would be there, and I'll do the best I can to throw a little bit in there. But like Penelope mentions, like we slowed down the hold, like the processing power of the hold. So it's like it's not taking up nearly the capacity that it was before. Does mean that everything is a lot slower, and that is the domain of Pollux. And I'm not sure what that's gonna do to people in the hold, but at least
For
time
Pollux.
is traveling slower for them. Yeah, mostly Pollux. Like people should be preserved. That's not the problem.
Can we send somebody in the hold to investigate what it's actually doing and potentially talk to Pollux? And I'm looking at you, Comms.
You're not going alone.
So it Penelope goes, we could, but that would not provide an answer in any reasonable amount of time. From what I've got, like, and what I tried to work down there is that time is traveling significantly slower. So for them, from our perspective, like they're basically at a standstill. It's practically like frame by frame moving by, and it's barely processing anything.
I also think that this, whatever, I mean, you raise valid points of like, what the heck is this? Totally human of you to ask, but like, we don't have time for that either. Like that requires research and time and like different brains and bringing them together.
Well, there's gotta
And
be
processing resources.
Well, fair enough, but there's got to be some kind of a team that we can stick on this. I mean, there's plenty of people on this ship. Besides using our resources, using other people's resources, like I don't.
The thing is I feel like there are people already talking about this on the ship, people who are awake and seeing this. We're not the only ones seeing this happen. So there are people already talking about this as much as we are able to.
Yeah, but the people that are awake right now have a lot to do. And the people who are in the hold are not going to be able to give us any answers except at a snail's pace.
So does Charlie know of any way that we could get this kind of word out in general to the ship to the degree where if anyone has anything that they know, they could come to us and share it with us?
Without causing a panic?
Well, Truth Seeker already told everybody on the ship.
That ship is clearly saying
that's already happening.
Yeah.
Fair.
Let's be honest. Oh, yeah, there's panic, but
Right.
it's also, I would say it's a level of like, oh, okay, something new.
Yeah.
So what's
Also, nerd excitement because they're scientists and they're like, what is this thing that the sun is being controlled?
I
by?
mean,
Like,
maybe the other part of this, in my mind, as far as nerd excitement goes, is that we're also out here as scientists to do a thing.
Right.
And every single thing that we do, whether it's save these people, research this thing, comes in conjunction and like takes up time away from our main goal. That at any point in these choices could negate the rest of it. You know, try to save a ship, try to figure out what giant sun gun is doing. Like, you know, I kind of want to just get the heck out of Dodge.
maybe it's time to start talking about acceptable losses.
And
I
there goes
mean,
empathy.
I have already.
I said I was trying it on. I didn't say I was like gluing it to my
fit.
body.
It didn't fit.
still working out the kinks.
This is hard.
Well,
Maybe-
no.
maybe we
I don't think that it actually shows a lack of empathy.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Because I don't believe that we should save 20 people at the risk of eliminating the whole human race.
Right,
Minus
well-
20 people.
And I feel like that is a kind of like empathy.
That's hard choice empathy right there.
Yeah,
That's,
and that's definitely where Kaster is coming from too, is that like we for so long meticulously sought out and built this ship and like thought about the resources we would need and calculated and how much can you actually blast out into space and hold, and we min-max that to a T.
right.
So as we just, you can't just, I understand that you're feeling a lot of things, but you can't just lump all these like, oh, well, yeah, just get that sun gun, figure it out, then grab that ship. And we're just going to run off to the Trappist transfer.
So you're gonna message back to the ship, just being like, "Sorry, new spaceship, who dis?"
Just to be perfectly clear, Kaster,
Oh,
I do
man.
not think that we need to pick them up. I was merely informing you all that this is in existence, that these people are asking for our help, and that we are their only chance.
Yeah,
I know, I just thought I'd
I'm
lump it all
only
in.
saying
I'm just saying my
likely-
piece, which is I don't super care about ship and I don't super care about sun gun. I super care about getting out of the solar system with this ship and these people intact.
Amen.
That's fair.
on that note, what do we know about this ship?
So at this point,
How much time you got?
Andine sort of like moves into the center of the room and like pulls up a like sort of live, giant quotation marks there, live-ish image of the sun, right? Of like basically at this point, map out real fast. They indicate like roughly an hour ago-ish. And kind of like grabs it and like blows it up and rotates it around and shows this like spot, right? Which again, like reminding you, it is like massive, like especially compared to what other sunspots. And they kind of give the same little spiel that they gave the True Seeker last time, right? In terms of like, here's a comparison of like what a normal sunspot looks like.
And then here's the geometry of this one.
And the 8 pieces around it.
Sure.
And so like mentions that, hey, if we As we get a little bit closer, the Pollux' sensor array is going to be able to analyze it a little better, right?
Yeah.
This is from, like, the images that we see now are basically from satellites that are kind of like stationed around Earth's orbit.
Yeah.
So relatively closer than we are currently. But once we get it within Earth's orbit, like, our resolution and ability to like analyze is going to get better, right?
Mhm.
Pollux has the best sensor array that we've ever created. We've min-maxed it. So as we get closer, Andai mentions that and goes into lecture mode, right? It kind of sees like, does like a little swipe of their hand, and the coloring of the sun goes to like this false color image.
Mm-hmm.
And you see like highlighted suddenly like all of these ripples across the surface. And like Andine talks about how especially like in early ages of solar physics, before we had actually like plunged any probes into the sun, future stuff. We just use helioseismology, which is like just watching the vibrations, sort of like almost like earthquakes on the sun, the solar quakes,
Okay.
and the vibrations happening through it. And that's how we figured out like the contents of the sun and the shapes of it. And so like we should be able to analyze the vibrations, the helioseismology created by whatever this thing is, and at least get a three-dimensional image of what might be down there. It's probably going to be fuzzy if there's something like, depending on what it is. I mean, if it's that large, it's going to be affecting the region of the
You mean like some sort of structure underground? Is
whatever it is. If it's on the surface, if it's like, or surface of the sun right at that edge, it's going to be influencing the plasma around it and the convective layer below it. We should be able to get like almost like a sounding of it, get like an image. But where we are now, it's not the case.
Mhm.
Like we have to get a little bit closer. But as you're kind of like watching, and like Andine kind of stops speaking for a moment and like zooms in really fully on it, and you see like this surprisingly good circle, right? We're talking about like it is just nature doesn't make lines that good, right? Surrounded by these eight points. And like Andine zooms in like between the two, right? So between like one of the like the eight smaller circles around it,
Sure.
kind of like looks at the connect like between like to the best of their like kind of zoom in. It starts getting a little grainy by your standards at least. And they pull up like they're kind of measuring out a couple spots and like taking a look at different like convective bubbles that are there, and goes, that's not right, and kind of maps it out, and you see these overlaid arrows kind of like centered at the very core of that sunspot, kind of shooting outwards and connecting through the circles, kind of like something that's obviously a computer overlay. And Andine goes, okay, so all of those points that form the little like hexagon around or octagon around it are getting further away from it, all radially. And kind of like she grabs the sun and kind of wraps it around, and you see those arrows which had gone through from the center, wrapping out. They're all converging on the opposite side of the sun.
The part where we're headed.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be like right around that edge.
Totes.
So it's
Yeah.
going to fire at us then instead of now. Or did it already fire?
You say that, and then goes like, I don't think that's the case. I don't know what this is, but and then kind of like pulls it around again, and you see the large spot, and from the edge, right, you see a solar prominence, so like some of the plasma coming off the edge of the surface of the sun, and that is where like that pattern that had fired off the coronal mass ejection was present, right? That magnetic field that Comms 3 saw, and they're like, that's not moving. That is still at its location and kind of orbiting with the sun. I haven't seen that change position, but whatever these are. Smaller, right, are converging on the other side. I don't know what they are capable of.
Also, are they capable of like recreating that? If we don't know what this is, if we're, speculating, can those things that are moving create that spot again somewhere else on the sun?
And I just goes like, your guess is as good as mine.
Right?
Well,
I like to think that he was actually doing that.
And also, Andine,
They are.
I mean, speaking of speculation, do you have any theories about what this could possibly be within our sphere of knowledge?
Not until we get closer. Like, yeah, I mean, really, like,
Well,
I mean, apart from real assumptions, seems like there's a ship, something like plunged in. I mean, we are just now becoming a spacefaring species, right? Like venturing out, and we don't know what is possible out there. And it seems like it certainly seems like an intelligence. It's too coordinated. But these things coming towards us or coming into our path along the edge,
Right. Well, and the real
or at least coming to say hello.
one of the real kickers is we don't know if this is a program type intelligence or like a legitimate intelligence going, yes, do this now, do that now. Like, oh, look, they're moving. Like, go get them. Or, you know, like, is this old technology and we just got too close? Like, who knows?
That's very possible. And also, philosophically speaking,
Oh, are we trying that on now?
it's on my sheet.
We know it's not old technology because we saw the thing go into the sun and we saw it form, so we know that it's new. Like the photos show us, like we have evidence of it like appearing. You know what I mean?
I do now, but yeah, I forgot about that part.
Occam's razor.
Oh God, here we go again.
The simplest explanation is most preferable. In a nutshell, humanity has only encountered one spacefaring, technologically advanced race that pulled humanity out of the crappa, as you might say.
Thanks.
I'm just trying it on.
I get that.
It says it just like you. It's real creepy.
Yeah.
Like a recording.
Like a recording of just saying that.
You're like me.
And
Caster wins.
so I have two thoughts about this. One is that I think that we should assume it has something to do with the encephalopod aliens.
The Smitties.
That's totally a valid assumption. I agree.
Because
Valid assumption, but we have no past evidence that would suggest hostility from them.
But we don't know if this is hostility or not.
Right.
This literally could be something that is to protect us, but we weren't supposed to leave.
that was my other thought.
It could be like a, hi, how are you?
We weren't supposed to leave,
Okay,
Earth.
but we saw it. But it's what blew up the Earth too, because it caused it also caused the other solar
I
flare.
love your speculation.
But
Oh,
not
yeah,
till
who's to
not
say-
till after we left.
right.
Yeah.
So, but it was just specifically trying to protect our ship, not
No.
No. Trying
no.
to protect the Earth.
No, it's trying to protect the rest of the
I see what
universe
you're saying, yeah.
from us. We were judged and deemed lacking.
Don't.
Humans don't belong with the rest of the universe. Is that what you're saying, Com?
We were saved, but we were quarantined. We broke the quarantine.
Did they make our solar system like the Australia of the universe? Like
Basically.
we're just stuck here?
I think it's penal colony. That's close enough.
What did you say?
Penal colony.
Oh. I'm sorry. I opened that door. You just walked right through.
I'm
Thanks.
sorry, say that.
Penal.
Open the door.
Colony.
Walk right through. No lube.
Oh, God.
Ugh.
I did warn them. Come get weird.
I love it.
I have a novel
I think that's
idea.
going to crack at least somebody up. Let me hear your novel idea.
What if there is a group, a species, a civilization that we do not know, but it knows the encephalopods?
This is all coming from a spider bot, by the way.
And, yeah, I know.
I'm aware.
I can't take you seriously in this form. I'm sorry.
What? Have you ever been able to take them seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously? Have we landed on that?
Comms is I can't explain it. Anyway, continue, Spiderbot.
Spider-Bite?
If there are more than two intelligent species in the universe, maybe they don't like each other. Maybe they want to destroy each other's work. Or one wants to destroy one. And then now I'm start rambling because now I'm processing a lot of ideas really fast and I'm jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
So we like the little
comms,
brother
you're,
caught
like,
in a fight
stepping out of
between
the room.
right?
Comms, you're a verbal
Big brother.
processor. And
Right.
we need you to like hone it down to something palatable.
But I have a lot of ideas all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, skip it and get to the meat.
The meat is that none of this really matters if we don't escape the gun that's pointing at us.
The sun gun?
Yes.
Sun's out, guns out?
Well, there's not a lot that we can do right now, so I'm gonna take a bubble bath.
I think we can try to
Seems
figure
legit.
out if there is a way to help. Or did we decide that we weren't going to help them?
We didn't decide
It's really
anything.
not up to me.
Right.
I just
So
want to make sure y'all are informed of the situation.
Charlie
Why are
starts
you
to
here?
walk out of the
To
room,
inform you all of things
but he
and see what
turns
happens.
on speaker mode so he can hear the conversation.
Yeah.
'Cause right now he's like, yeah,
I'll listen, but I really need that bubble bath.
bubble bath. Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to continue discussion, but I also want to hear what y'all might be doing in the intervening few hours or 16 hours or so. I know there's certainly some damage that's come across for at least some of you.
Do we have tangible quarters too? Like if we're crew members?
You do.
I guess I would go to my quarters and I would record everything like by hand. That just happened.
By hand?
Yeah.
Like typing or like quill?
Well, I guess it wouldn't go into the main
Hardcore.
systems right now because of everything. So,
So
there's like a
tradish.
way.
No, right.
I would do it by hand, like
You
on
hipster,
paper.
pull up like a
A
typewriter.
typewriter. Oh,
Oh
my
my
god.
God.
No, I'm not that far. No, I just mean like I just figured the main computer system of like my log isn't available to me, so I would just like go. But I like to keep everything down, so that's what I would go do during like the intern. But I would keep my comms open in case anybody needed to like get a hold of me or something was happening. You know.
Comms open. Your comms open. Take all my dice and I just knock them. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's how you roll.
It wasn't a great roll though.
Rude. Only 46 damage to you.
Guns are out.
Comms, what are you doing?
You have
Just
quarters.
a bunch of red string and a bunch of photos. You're just in the
more or less,
Like,
more or less, I'm doing the virtual equivalent of like trying to figure out what all this.
Do you have any points in conspiracy theory or anything?
Well,
It gets to 42.
Well, also comms. I send you
cryptography. No.
comms. I send you a few notes to maybe run a few virtual scenarios. Kind of run as like test virtual scenarios in order to maybe get a bit of a leg up on what could happen on the next solar blast if one comes, so that maybe we're a little bit more prepared for this time around. I feel like Kaster and I are prepared on kind of a pilot level, but in terms of a defensive maneuvers level, it's kind of still up in the air. We don't know what the blast
What
is
if
going to
we
be
blow up
like.
the sun first?
What's that? What's that?
I said, what if we blow up the sun first? What if we shoot the sun before it shoots us?
Don't start a fight, but finish it.
Cowboy offensive defense. You know
Okay,
what I mean?
but you need to blow that whole mess away from you
Yeah,
so that none of it comes back
We'll
at you.
just
Yeah, let's
blow it
make the
that
sun
way.
nova.
Does Pollux actually have any like viable weaponry?
No. So
Okay.
Colony ship.
I mean, nothing that is intentionally. Nothing is also. What are you going to fight? Right? Like it was not part of the planning system.
The white thing.
Not to say you can't, or weapons can't be made down the line, or who knows what.
Right.
Not to say there can't be improvised, but certainly nothing intended as a weapon. Also, there's a moment where Andine is like, kind of like, hold on. And starts into a lecture about how our sun won't go nova. That just seems possible, but it might. And also see them go, oh, no, it should be fine. It's okay. Eventually it'll like puff out its outer layers, but that probably won't happen for a few billion years. But
We'll be long gone in the Trappist system by then.
yeah,
Unless what is being done to the sun now will change that equation.
Yeah. Is it all like, I don't know, could it be at all like draining or absorbing or
Just
utilizing
sucking the life
in
of the
some way,
sun.
shape, or form?
using a lot of energy. I mean, basically, what would happen is when our sun eventually starts to run out of hydrogen as a primary fuel, it's turning it into helium through fusion. The sun is going to expand. I mean, over the next billion years, it should expand by 10%, right? And like Andine kind of tosses up some numbers, and you'll see where. That's weird. The sun's actually is larger than.
Then it should be.
Yeah.
Is that why
Well, that
Cider was in the
sucks.
wrong spot?
Andine kind of does some calculations like, no, that shouldn't change that. If this thing is as massive as we think it might be, we'll know when we get closer. Like you talked about, like the shadow of this thing is the size of Jupiter. I mean, it was a strong gravitational mass that came through. I mean, it seems like, and kind of tracks back the numbers and sees that shadow, shows all of you that shadow, like occluding stars. You can't even see what it is. Its presence in our solar system altered the orbit of Saturn. And as Andine is kind of running the numbers and other planets in the solar system. And that's terrifying to them.
So right now the circles are moving, or the points outside the circle are moving around the sun.
Yeah.
The other side.
They're sort of like each kind of moving outwards from their original position to like wrap around the sun and come back to a central point, which is going to be pretty close to your closest approach, your perihelion.
Me too.
It's fine. Don't
I
worry
have
about it.
thoughts, but I'm not going to. Truth Seeker wouldn't know anything about that, so I'm not going to say anything. Anyway.
Well, are you sure? Would it be like a knowledge
No,
check?
it just has to do with the book that
character
Will
knows
had
it.
me read recently. It's just gave me ideas about, but I don't want to like. That's so metagaming. Bill's like, read this book. It has a lot to do with.
No, but yes. No and
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Different. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Check out our book club in the future when we have one.
Or just ask.
But for now, wahaha.
Hit up on Twitter.
Yeah, just don't forget that sometimes your character may be able to know things that you can't express if you have certain skills.
Oh no, I get that. I
can't
honestly
roll
just
up, you
didn't
can-
think my character would have any way of knowing what I was thinking.
This particular thing.
There's
Yeah.
that too. Yeah,
I'm
This
like
was
a-
an Ashley
that's
thought.
the
Yeah.
reflexive.
Abby, what is Kaster doing in the interim?
So Kaster does have physical quarters, but when they go to them, there's not anything in there.
Just empty.
Like it mostly, yeah. I mean, imagine it like like a military hotel, in the sense of you have sets of clothing, and like you have basic bed sheets, and you have like a table and a desk and a writing implement, and like you have all the things that you need, but there ain't anything in there. There is nothing distinguishing. It's all very like cubic and like I also imagine it all being like monotone grays of different kinds. You know, like your standard like gray woolen blanket kind of like situation.
It's real different from the Gobble Hobble.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like Kaster, so Kaster knows that they kind of need to rest because, like, you know, some shit went down and that sucked. But like,
Also meat suits.
I mean, I know they're fucking irritating.
This thing.
There's that. So Kaster goes into their quarters. This is also quarters, unlike in the hold or even just a couple other places on the ship. These quarters were supposed to be their private quarters. So these don't even have anything that like a physical office would have. Like they would have a physical office where they might do stuff and meet space that's work related, but this was supposed to be their private area. So there's nothing there. In any case, they go in, and as soon as like the doors sort of shut or close, like they're fucking pissed. Like they're confused and pissed and upset. And like they kick a random like desk and it hurts, and like fucking meat suit. Like
Take 2 damage.
that being said, like, and that like happens for a moment, and like there's this insane silence that they're having a hard time dealing with because there's no Pollux. Like there's nothing to there's like all these other meat suits running around. Like they don't know how Kaster communicates, and like Kaster can't. There's no. Pollux was so good at translating, if you will, and
kind of an outlet.
yeah, absolutely. And also, Pollux being what it was, had a very formulaic, because Kaster built it, way of thinking, and Kaster knew. Like, so that the communication was easy. And Kaster cannot be bothered to not work. Like, they're so upset. And so actually after a little bit of time, like just sort of a moment where it's like, oh God, feed the meat suit, like, you know, put the things back on the table that they knocked over. They try to get a hold of Comms 3 to come to their quarters. Do you answer?
Your phone's ringing, dude.
New computer. Who did?
No, because I'm just like, I want to talk to them outside of like everyone else, basically.
Private combo.
Kind of.
Cool.
And I'm just kind of like curious because they're one of the few that knows about the systems, or theoretically, but they're so easily distracted by everybody else and like what's going on there. So I'm just curious.
You want me to bring the spider robot?
Yeah, I mean, that's what
yeah.
we're hoping for.
Well, I can telecommute.
Oh God, you could.
That's fair.
And that's a joke.
Except for everyone.
Joke.
Everyone can hear.
The spider's doing this.
Yeah.
I love that.
The spider tells a joke.
So I need to go take care of some biological needs. You all think about what you're going to talk about for a second. I will be back very quickly.
Okay.
Yes, man, I'm very fast.
All right, so now I'm working on both of your ideas.
Sorry, Will.
Okay, cool.
My bad.
Both.
Screw that, I think.
No, didn't.
So I like the idea of running simulations. That's cool. I think I have the kind of skill set that would do that.
I think what worries me is like whether or not your current body will limit your ability to process that at the speed that you are used to.
Well, but if I go into the hold, then everything slows down.
Right. No, I know. I'm just.
So this is your best.
This is again.
Yeah.
This is the best we can do.
Right.
I feel good. I feel strong. I feel good in this new robot. I think I can do it. I
Okay.
feel optimistic.
I believe in you,
I believe in you.
and that's the truth.
I love it. What did you want?
Are we waiting for Will
No,
or
we're
not?
not.
Oh, okay.
No, he
cool.
said continue on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, he can watch the footage.
We'll fill him in later.
We'll fill him in. Yeah.
Woman?
What's the just to avoid dead air? What were you thinking after the spider walks into your office?
Clickety clack, clickety clack.
Click, click, click,
Right,
click,
right.
click, 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 click.
I just want, like, Kaster wants to know, like, a couple different things. It's like, basically, like, is this body working for you? Like, we have a little bit of time. We have other options. And, like, for a moment there, you almost, I understand that you don't get it, but, like, you almost died. And that could be a problem.
That had occurred to me several times while I was dying.
I did explain it to you.
That's beautiful.
Caster's not laughing.
Yeah.
Caster's like stone faced, like, yeah, okay.
I think we're very clear on that.
Like Christine, not laughing.
Yes.
No.
I'm not laughing right now. Yeah.
See laughter.
Because you're going to have to continue, like, you're now an important part of our operating system. We're going to need you to continue in the role that you're in. And I want to make sure that you are solid in that role and what you can do for us. And as well as like you're lucky and you don't have to have this meat suit. It requires so much.
I'm ordering more maintenance spots to my location.
Okay.
Oh my god. Is it gonna be like a Kira maintenance spot?
You,
I'm gonna become a Voltron. I just need 5 of these and I'll look like a real boy.
A real lion?
Ooh, yeah.
This is
That's
too much.
definitely how that works.
No,
Yeah.
this.
Become a Voltron lion. I'm so down.
That's great.
Okay. With some work, I could do that. But
Couldn't you just get into a different type of bot or like another body?
well, that's a good question. What are my options now that we're not in the heat of the moment?
That sort of was my point. Is that like I'm literally like
Caster's
Toy
the first
box.
to ask you with that, yeah.
But you're
You know?
also asking me to judge an experience that I haven't had.
right? No, I know, but like it's
Gotta sound
like
appealing to you.
choosing right.
Yeah.
What sounds appealing?
Wait, are you literally like opening like an options box for comms?
No, Pandora's.
No, I mean, I don't feel like in our
Like,
current setup, I don't feel like we have the options because what I would have done otherwise is to send it to them through like a heads up, like here's this. We don't in our current state we don't have anything for me to fan out. Otherwise, I totally would.
Right.
Like
yeah.
options.
Maybe you try. and
Are
you're like,
you?
Damn it! Reality sucks.
I know, right?
Are you suggesting that I inhabit a meat sack?
You could if you wanted to.
So, what skills do you have relevant to sleeving?
Psychosurgery?
Might be close enough, to a certain extent at least. So, what's your skill in it?
75.
Cool. Make a roll.
Okay.
You're questioning about, like, there's a reason y'all didn't put comms 3 into a biological body. Right?
No,
You were
for sure.
uncertain about how it would work.
Not only how it would work, but like how it would react. But I'm feeling a thing. Caster's feeling a thing. And
I'm feeling a thing too.
awkward.
Anxiety.
I thought it was darker in here.
Yeah. Like what?
50. Oh wait, no, 5.
5.
Still good. On the lower side of good, but still good. So you, sugar. You think that it could be done. You are uncertain about how like a human's neural pathways would coincide with whatever this is, but I mean, for lack of a better term, like you're intrigued and
No, and that's valid. And I think that the way that Kaster would relay it is like a lot of trepidation. Like, yes, I think that can be done, and like we could back you up, and like it would probably be messy, which is totally fine. That's like what science is. But like maybe in this time frame, when we're trying to not die, it's not the best option.
Agreed.
something on the back burner you're thinking about. So here's the thing too. Like I would say, common knowledge that there is cloning facilities. Cloning for lack of a better term. There might be a better term. Meat suit growing facilities. How about that? Like it doesn't have to be a clone, right? It's like we could do like genetic seeds, grow things off.
Axolotl tank.
Yes.
Pod people?
Yes.
Basically.
Pod people. But currently, really, like the body bank is still like the 10,000 crew-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess 9,999 physical bodies now, since 4 others. So you haven't got a casualty count. Either way, like there's no additional bodies beyond the crew yet. And it's kind of like, at least currently, a little bit of like a faux pas to just take somebody's body
For sure.
without like, consent. To a
Right.
certain extent. There's a level of people, like I would say Kaster probably falls into this more than most, being like, a suit's a suit, I don't really care. You've been into many. But it is like it's still a societal element of like, that's my car. Right? Like
Right.
there's no
You don't want to show up. You don't want 2 consciousnesses to show up to the party both wearing the same meat suit.
they
It's
try
like
and
that
download
whole
their
dress trope, but
they try and download and there's a busy signal. You're like, whoa. It's kind of fucked up.
And
Right.
maybe there's a kink
Right.
as well. Like I want you to do me, but in that body.
I like it where like both simultaneously having a conversation about like I don't really care about any of this. I just want to make sure we get out of the solar system. What's the sun gun thing? Do you want to talk about weird kinks that could happen with a cross sleeve? We'll get to that later. We'll have a whole episode on like random questions at some point. I think that'd be kind of fun.
I thought you were going to say a whole episode about
Can you imagine
kink.
the levels that furries
I
can
mean,
go to?
yes.
Yeah, wait for it.
Alone?
Alone.
What?
So can you imagine the levels that furries can go to?
I mean, I don't have to.
Yeah.
With being able to re-sleeve into different bodies and stuff.
I mean, it's not what a fursuit is.
But imagine if
Never
it weren't a
mind.
suit. What if it were
I mean,
just...
it would be a suit, though.
I like
Sorry,
to
I
believe
just
that
tried to make
this is
that as
actually a story
awkward as
about how
possible.
humanity
Yeah.
ends. And your like last conversation had before just the wave takes y'all out.
Wait, what if fursuits weren't fursuits?
They were meat fursuits.
Yeah, meat suits.
This
Ears.
is why the aliens have come to take us out, by the way.
This is why
No,
we're being
no
destroyed.
kink shame. No kink shame.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm just talking about this conversation. No,
Right.
no, David, just you. No.
No.
No, we're taking a lot of directions.
Yes, we are.
But no, definitely kink shaming.
And is there anything else that you would like to add?
Oh, no. I mean, I just,
No.
Sorry, that was like out of nowhere.
And then you
No, no.
notice that there are other the other maintenance robots are just kind of waiting outside the door.
Honestly, I can't imagine that phases Kaster. Like, that probably does not register as weird.
But I say, I've got backup.
Let's step outside really fast. Venus is beautiful in the sky and glowing brightly.
Hey, we're back on.
And we're back. Never mind.
Don't leave, even though Venus looks great.
Yeah,
Venus is bright.
Let it blow your mind later.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's setting so. I just went out because and I saw a moment ago when I was peeing. It like through a little a thin layer of clouds. It looks really clear, crystal out, but like Venus was so bright, I thought it was a plane for a while because it was all
neat.
flickering a little bit, and it normally doesn't do that, but the clouds made it do that.
Yeah.
So I was just like, what is that? Oh God!
Or
Not
maybe it
a
is
sport
flickering.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, cool. I like this. So maybe I would say a thought crosses your mind, whether you follow up on it or not, that you could potentially order a meat suit body to be made to certain specifications, depending on resources. Which, if things go well, you're going to get a lot of energy, fuel, and resources as we round the sun.
Right.
Because there's crews of people, as Charlie mentioned, and Charlie is sort of is first among pilots, right? Is kind of connecting out. You've you got a little status update in different departments. People that are battening down the hatches, people who are in nanofabrication are doing 3D printing and getting materials set, people who are getting prepped for various elements, and there's also cloning bays and whatnot. So
I feel like in that moment, Kaster would also sort of think oh, and I would need to mix up the genetic material in a non-catastrophic way because the meat suit situation. Because you can't have one meat suit looking like another meat suit and then just plop a robot inside of it.
Would you consider, and this is assuming that it's possible, to have Comms 3 in a different kind of a body other than humanoid?
Oh, I already offered that.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
This was just sort of, that was the last end of that thought process as far as getting more resources and being able to potentially create comms their own meat suit.
Right.
Because there is one passing thought that Kaster has, which is just sort of I don't know that people get to know about comms 3.
Right.
But also
apart from the blog,
right, I know. There is that.
Truth
The
Seekers
Truth
are-
Seeker blog?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody knows about Comms 3 already.
Okay, well, I mean, I didn't like that. I didn't know if that was already put out there.
Well,
Oh,
okay.
I just...
Truth
Actually, it
Seeker is
wasn't.
pretty egotistical and assuming that everybody is reading their blog.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know who's actually reading my blog, and I'm not... My blog is very, I kind of explained it to Will the other day when I was talking about how I take notes. I take notes from Truth Seeker's perspective, and everything that Truth Seeker blogs about is from Truth Seeker's perspective. So
Right.
I don't know how much it's, clear to the entire world that Comms 3 is what it is, but, I'm very just like, oh yes, Comms 3 is doing these things. Like,
Okay, but
the
like you
best
haven't said what they are.
I don't know what they are.
Okay,
Like, True
Alright.
Seeker doesn't know.
okay.
If I knew, I would. So I'm just
Fair
letting it clear.
Yeah. Has there been a op-ed speculation?
I don't speculate.
Oh.
Well, see, I guess
Because I
that's
feel like
I
that's
only
misinformation.
publish hard
I mean,
truth.
okay, Truth Seeker thinks they don't speculate, but I'm sure they speculate. But
Sure.
you know what I mean? But like, as far as Truth Seeker goes, like they wouldn't like just say something without like seeing it, like having it like firmed, like proving that it was true first.
Got it.
That's
Got
kind
it.
of their whole shtick.
Yeah.
What is your definition of proof?
We can really go down this rabbit hole if you want, but
Yeah.
Not right now, but it's a valid point. So there's question marks still.
Sure.
And who knows what's going on inside the hold anyway, and
Right.
at what rate it is. So
well, and like it does bring up an interesting point because we've definitely interacted with Comms 3 on this sort of like, who knows, fuck that thing is like especially when we were in the hold, like what is that thing over there, like flipping out and flashing and whatever. But even with the upload to the bot, I don't remember there being any conversation. It was just sort of like, oh, we're fucked. Oh, great. You can help. Like, you know, like, and then sort of like move along with it.
we're kind of having that conversation now.
That's fair. That's
Got a little downtime. What are you?
well, and I mean, I guess that begs the question of like, if we have downtime, what's Truth Seeker saying? Like, what are they posting?
I mean, it's going out to
right now, what am I posting?
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
not
So
posting
it's-
anything right now.
So
That's
it's not
posting.
going to the hold. So there is like ship networks are back up. You've got enough power from whatever Comms 3 did to the reactor, which by the way, Andine is also like Comms 3 is like messaging you consistently. Like you've got like another channel open and you were like having a nerd conversation simultaneously with
Right.
this.
Well, of course.
Right? That's
I
taking up some of your
expected you to
bandwidth.
be having like 3 other ones.
Yeah, easy.
Right.
And you know, kind of like talking about your like your equations of like the physics of like the magnetic field that you saw and what you did to the reactor.
So you're putting out your information using the ship's communication systems.
Well, I mean, I was kind of like live broadcasting to all of you guys right now. I don't think I'm broadcasting anything. I think I'm literally just like cataloging or like archiving it.
You've
know?
got
like,
I would say
writing
you've
it
got
down,
your
'cause-
digital notes like normally, right? Like you be writing it down in other ways too, but like that's the ship is like is fine, right? It's more like the hold is
I'm recording. That's what I'm doing.
separated from everything else right now, but the ship is still networks. Like the intership communications is back up. Like the ship is running normally enough for now.
Okay, well then I would I'm just literally like logging and putting it on my blog. Whatever. But like I said, I'm not like broadcasting terribly, so it's whoever reads it. But it would just be
My point is that you're using the ship's communication systems in order to do that, which means you are doing it through me.
oh yeah, I guess.
So I'm
I wouldn't say you have access to. Yeah, you have access. There's nothing that's stopping you from reading it. Right?
potentially.
But yeah, but it's not like this is like a an email or phone communication or anything like that. It is just like you're not 100% like there's still a level of privacy on the ship from you, and that in some senses of people connecting like what they're doing. But when they upload to the internet, you definitely are aware. You can like read everything.
Right.
And I imagine for you,
I'm just saying I could.
you're probably paying attention to your friends, right, or your
Oh, absolutely.
You're watching their traffic. That's say like closer than others.
I'm saying that you have at least a viewer of one.
Yeah.
But it's just not. It's not.
Well, what
seeing
comms
everything
is
and everything,
seeing
right?
come up is basically the information about what we just went through, like everything, like like from True Seeker's perspective, like this is what happened, this is what we found out, this is what we're planning to do, this is where we're at.
So like a lot of it is just like I'm moving like encrypted packets around. I don't necessarily, but if this is meant for a blog, it would not be an encrypted.
No,
thing.
it's
It
more
would
like a
be the
Dear
opposite.
Diary type thing.
Yeah, it's going up to the cloud.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm just discussing my relationship to what passes through the communications of the ship.
I mean, so this is communications is different than like connecting to the internet, right? In this particular case, like you've got like depending on the levels of communication AI, right, that you've absorbed. There was
Right.
external, which you were originally. You've got internal, which is more like person to person kind of idea, like large transmissions. But in terms of like internet and data packets in that regard, right? That is still going to be a separate network.
I would imagine it's something like I absorbed comms 1 and comms 2, but it's kind of like my relationship to my internal organs. They're still doing their job, but I don't really monitor it.
You're not asking your kidney questions right now.
Exactly, and I don't know. I can't really talk to my heart.
Oh, working on that empathy bit.
I'm trying it on.
Yeah.
It's an awkward fit.
Yeah, this is not good.
Can we get an empathy tailor? Is that?
Yes.
I think that's called a psychiatrist.
I think you're that.
Are you?
Help with that internal scene.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else y'all want to be doing? Kind of.
Yeah. The thing that Charlie said. Can I run simulations of things that might or might not be happening?
I think you just described what human anxiety is.
Yeah.
Running simulations of things that may or may not be happening. So you're experiencing anxiety.
I'm just curious.
So
I'm curious, what it would take to do that, and do I have those requisite skills? Because I like that idea. It's something that Guns 3 would want to do in this weird downtime when all I can think about is Gary.
Gary.
The way that you say it, like you're half mad at Gary for dying.
Mark, whatever Gary's doing
I don't know
now,
how I feel about it.
he's not thinking about you.
Oh,
That's definitely true. Gary has no idea who you are.
And we've already talked about this. Even if
at
he
least
comes
as
back
far
with
as
his
we
backup,
know.
he won't know who you are still.
I know.
So y'all know.
I think I want to write him a card.
You access standard operating procedures for the crew when it comes to like any possibility of biological death. What would happen, and you know that there is a sort of random selection of remaining backup copies for that person, right? Like it's kind of like you get to be the one. So suddenly a backup copy in their little protected cave back in the hold or offshoot of the hold, right, kind of gains a level of awareness that they are the primary version. But at this point, imagine how terrifying that might be on an existential level, because y'all might go through it at some point, is when you come to realize, like, I don't know what happened to the other me, but I know I am the real me right now, the real whatever that means, right? And if you haven't been uploaded or backed up, there's hours, days, years of time missing, and so all of this Gary knows is that something bad happened because I'm me now. So that's happening to Gary currently. Oh, a little bit.
Also, I feel like Gary probably wasn't. Well, again, it depends on when they back up, but potentially didn't even see the whole start of this. Like maybe backed up when we shot off into space and like had a moment, and then like collective scream happens and like.
Oh yeah, he's on the ship and he's never been on the ship before. Oh.
It's not that bad.
But that would be bad, though. I'll bet you there's at least a few people who have never woken up on the ship before.
I'm gonna make a roll. I'm not gonna tell you what it says, but if at least right now, but if that happens and Gary hasn't backed up for an excessive amount of time, maybe I'm not gonna say Gary's definitely backed up since the ship launched. Hold on. But if it's bad, if this is a bad roll, then I'm going to say that down the line, assuming this element of humanity continues on, it's going to be like, one of those lessons you teach your kids, be like, now don't be a Gary.
Oh dear God.
Back up consistently.
He hasn't backed up since before the scream, so then he has to find out all over again that
who's going to tell him?
Who's
I'm going to tell him.
Not it.
Kaster doesn't mind.
No, I guess True Secret wouldn't really carry there. Here's the truth, Gary.
I think that Gary
God is dead, including everybody also.
I think Gary is going to want to talk to me.
To know your
this is my list of things to do. I'm going to talk to Gary.
Oh, okay.
I can't get in the hole.
Yeah, Gary hasn't been backed up for a while. That's all I'll tell you.
Gary's going to be my new friend.
I'll tell you exactly how much I'll work that out later. So that's fun.
So start thinking about how Gary's going to feel about uplifted consciousness.
So this now makes sense to you on a level like you're recalling something that Barry said, as Gary was sort of dying, was like, oh my God, he hasn't backed up for so long. He's not even going to know about us.
Oh.
I want to go talk to Barry too.
Gary.
Oh, babies.
Barry and Gary.
Sweet babies.
I'm glad we're having emotional moments. Meanwhile, you're also like, those 20 people that are on a ship somewhere, fuck them.
I mean,
we're not going to pick them up. That's not happening.
But you know, these are people that we've actually interacted with. We don't know those guys.
I mean, we didn't.
They're farther away than any humans.
To be fair, you knew Barry and Gary for an all total of like an hour.
but they almost died together.
We bonded through
fair,
an experience from extremis. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that
Your first, like, one of your first
that
trauma,
failed
right?
marriages are made out of.
Too soon. I was kidding. Anyway,
back to processing.
No, that was beautiful though. Okay, so it's going to be from now on. There's going to be a Gary reference in the future.
Yes.
All right. So let's see. Where are we at right now? Anything else going on in the interim few hours that anybody wants to do? Question, investigate.
Oh, still haven't determined whether or not I can actually run those simulations.
Absolutely. I would say yes, but I would say you asked Charlie. You asked him to do the simulations, right?
I did.
Okay, so you almost immediately you notice that in your apartment, your quarters, that there are like small little little things happening all the time in the background, right?
I'm in a bubble bath, literally having a dude moment. I've got like a roach.
Nice.
And I'm just
no smoking on the ship.
Not true.
Everyone's got their own private little plant.
I mean, if you like
Especially
smoking.
Charlie.
Yeah, it's been legal for
We
like
don't drug
200
test
years.
in space. I just want to be clear. Yeah, it's been legal for hundreds of years. I would say there's definitely like a hydroponics department that is just all weed.
I mean,
medicinal.
I pilot better when I'm,
A pilot.
You can make a good machine
Don't
oil
tell
with,
Kaster.
We're going into the sun. Anyway,
straight into the sun.
so I like this. So you've got like some soothing music or like background ambient sounds happening.
Credence.
You've like you briefly tapped into comms 3 and you're like, hey, can you do this thing? And you're sit back and enjoying the moment. Like shortly after that conversation happens, your music starts like skipping a little bit, and like I would say maybe even there's like a little like next to your tub there's like a little like window kind of thing that has like kind of what looks like a holographic position. Well, it is, but like you're looking out a window into some beautiful landscape, right? And it starts glitching pretty hard as comms through, and this is happening across the ship. All of you are noticing this. You were having issues entering in. You're utilizing a lot of bandwidth, processing power, like running simulations in the ship.
Everything's like,
Yeah, a little bit, basically. I mean, the ship's still operating fine, but like anything that's requiring like processing.
I just like to just the whole thing where like the lights dim and like go back up and go dim again and go back up.
Yeah, because you're running like. First off, you're running far more detailed simulations than you really need to, and so you're just like, because everything's important, right?
It happens in mid inhale for me, and I'm like, fuck.
Buffalo Soldier. Nice. So, a couple things happened. So just make me a D100 roll.
Me who?
Concentrate, since he was running these. You were chilling.
I am kind of wondering about like what kind of role is this? Is this because I have like I have a modest hardware. I've got a pretty good research role.
Sorry, modest hardware.
I got modest hardware, baby. And lots of programming, lots of.
Let's see what you got.
In this country.
Because frankly, like research would help you, but I'm not sure.
Robots.
They don't face the crowd.
You got research. I'm gonna go with research. For
that's what I would have.
Yeah, that would have
thought.
That makes sense.
Yeah, right. Because
I'm not an expert at this.
What's InfoSec again?
That's like infiltration on systems and hacking and kind of like getting beyond some stuff there, I believe.
Yeah, like that's how I got into the robots and got them to do my bidding.
Yep, I got it.
4.
Nice. Okay, so and
60 was my target.
60 is your target. So I mean, you definitely have enough to kind of run through. So you're running through some simulations. It's taking you a long time, and that's what the 4 represents, right? Like low roll on it. So it's taking you a long time. You're making headway though. So make me a percent, like just roll straight 100 just as a percentage piece for me. After you do a couple
77.
Okay, 77. So you are taking in more data, right? Like in analyzing the last several weeks of footage and things of the sun, taking a look at what the dots are, right? You're running through several simulations. You see like a few possibilities of more weaponry being utilized in terms of like the sun gun firing. But with your 77, which is a crit, it is not specifically a skill roll, but I'm going to give that to you anyway because you rolled high anyway, where I wanted you to. So you find one of the likelier possibilities is you're analyzing these dots, especially as they're moving around the sun now, and you're watching they've been moving for a couple hours at this point. They're making quite significant headway around it, sort of like to meet you all about the time they reach over there. You're noticing that the spots are shrinking as well. And your speculation on this, but based on data that you have, is that if these things are ships, then they've been deeper in the convective layer of the sun, blocking some of the flow up to the surface, which has caused the darkening, right? It's not bringing out hot material to the sun anymore. They've been like absorbing that energy down there and perhaps focusing it back into the sun gun. But they're lightening. The image is lightening, and they're getting smaller. So like thinking that perhaps they're rising up towards the surface of the sun.
They're detaching.
And so that's your speculation, is that it's likely that it's possible that more weapons could be focused towards the ship. Although if they're rising up towards the surface, they're not utilizing the energy of the sun as much anymore, and they've left behind the primary like spot that seems to be where the material has been fired from in the past. You get a sense that these things are perhaps like gonna leave the sun.
That they've somehow decommissioned themselves in a way.
Yeah, they were doing something deeper that they won't be doing, but they may be doing something else when they leave.
Okay,
they're definitely
smaller weapons, perhaps.
So they have
more maneuverability.
I'm hearing that perhaps in the moment they have another agenda.
You don't feel
Pursuit,
you don't feel that it's going to fire a sun gun at you, at least. Like your research indicates that it is likely possible. Like there's a 2.3% chance repeating that another solar flare could be fired towards us. You deem that to be unlikely.
That's highly unlikely. Wow.
You seem far likelier, possibly a 77% possibility that they could be mounting a direct assault.
I broadcast this whole idea to everyone.
I drop my roach in the tub.
Because at that point the music kicks back on and like the beautiful image in the background of like tropical paradise or whatever the hell would be cool for traveling. And
then the equivalent of we're being attacked.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, I know. Well, 77%. That's
it's a C+.
Worth noting.
It's worth noting.
Yeah,
don't disagree.
So we don't have weapons, right?
No, not anything that is classified as a weapon. Like something could potentially be hobbled together and like reconfigured to cause damage. But like no.
Do we have shields?
Negative.
Like, do we have like a way to like protect ourselves from being shot at?
Nope.
Okay.
Dodging.
Question: does the ship that we are deciding to ignore, does that ship have weapons?
I feel like it's not within our technology currently to have space weapons.
Do you want to try and query that other ship?
Machine guns in space?
That's not a thing.
I mean, if
but I just
this question comes up, roll a research roll for you, which I'm sure is going to be super difficult.
Oh yeah, my research is super high.
I opened up a channel to the other ship.
Yeah. They're like, hey, just checking in. Probably not going to save you, but do you have any weapons?
I'm good. 74 out of 80.
Cool. So yeah, you get it real fast. You pull up specs on the ship and see that it is a long range mining vessel that it was out in the asteroid belt. It happens to be on the other side of the orbit of the sun right now, and it was mining titanium and other bits, and was going to be like bringing it back to Earth. It was out there though when the blast went off, and they're sort of like they typically have a complement of about 100
people.
But so you know that they've got some equipment for mining, which could be potentially jerry-rigged into something that could be a little more of a weapon, but is not like I'm gonna fire this from several AUs out from the sun. Maybe like close range, they could probably do some damage.
I relay all that information to you guys.
So are you gonna come get us?
We are
Seek the
still honestly trying to figure out what to do because we are moving much faster than it seems feasible to pick you up, and we're not sure what our options are.
We can try to make a rendezvous point and accelerate as much as possible to decrease the delta V, the change in velocity between us. We might be able to like cushion the landing. We just don't want to die out here.
It's 100% fair. None of us do.
Can you drop the other truth too about like giant sun gun?
Oh yeah.
Or like
I tell them all that too.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we've been watching. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Did they get any consciousnesses uploaded to them?
No, they I imagine you can get on their comms channel. They're like, we don't have a virtual hold.
Truth Seeker,
That's true.
is this being publicly broadcasted? Like, does
It's not
Charlie
a closed
know?
channel. I don't know. I don't know if I'd like bug everybody with it, but
Does Charlie know about what's happening here?
Oh
with
yeah,
this
it's like
communique?
within the group. Yeah.
You can get in on it.
Yeah. So Charlie messages just you.
Mhm.
Actually, messages just you and the rest of our sort of like close knit team, and says
private chat.
they could start accelerating, and I could start decreasing our speed. We could kind of meet in the middle.
I think
We don't want to decrease our speed.
slowing down is not.
It's only going to make it more likely that the sun's going to hit you.
Right. But
And then all of humanity dies.
okay, but what we just discovered, probably not going to fire at us. It doesn't have that capability currently right now. I say we use this window to explore this as an opportunity.
I feel like slowing down is a non-option. Like it feels like because every single point and everything else we have to do requires us to keep on track with our current resources, and that includes our speed.
All right.
None of my
And picking up more resources matters with how fast
Okay.
we're going, right?
Correct.
Copy
yes.
that. So, does Charlie know of a way to not necessarily adjust our speed, but adjust our trajectory to meet at a certain rendezvous point with this ship so that they can get up to enough speed so that we won't destroy them and or us in the process? Is that a thing that he can kind of
Roll a piloting check for you.
a piloting check? Okay. 50. I have 50.
Okay.
oh god, I just dropped my die.
I rolled a 2.
Cool. So this takes you because you're also in your bubble bath and you're kind of doing some mental math.
And you
Is
hide.
that what they call it now?
But I got my little palm, my little palm device.
I'm saying you're still in your bubble bath while you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
So your mental math and playing around. So you realize that the speed you're going to be going, especially as you're around the sun. So a couple things can happen. One, you can really set your trajectory for the most part as you round the sun. I mean, you could the further around you go, the more of the arc, right? The more force there's going to be on the ship itself, like as it's having to take a tighter turn.
Mm-hmm.
But really, you can set just about any angle. The problem is, at the speed you are already going, one, slowing down is not the best option.
Well, we've discounted that.
Yeah, so slowing down is not going to be a thing, right? In fact, the sun is pulling you in faster and faster by the minute.
Yeah.
you are already going so fast, and this thing is just not capable of picking up enough speed. If they dropped a bunch of like material, they maybe could like try and accelerate to get up towards, but there's still going to be like such a significant gap at the speed you're going. I mean, you're going to pass by them very fast. So you could meet at a point, but you are going to be at, you know, a speeding train going by, and they're going to be like a pedestrian trying to jump on, right? Yeah.
The only way to do it is a scoop, and we could potentially kill them all in doing it.
Yeah, it might liquefy, but I mean, their stacks might remain. They might survive somehow, but it's going to require some like ingenuity in order to even create set the scoop up.
Yeah.
And it has to be
The
started
reality of their
now.
situation is they're dead regardless. Like they can't last that long on their station without resources from Earth, and they can't go anywhere. So
what you're saying is, aside from the very, very risky scoop, we have no options.
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah,
that's kind of what like your piloting tells you, is like you could meet them very quickly, but in terms of like getting them on board, you are unsure how to do that safely. They just can't get to the speed to make it like a reasonable docking, right? They might as well be standing still by your comparison as you fly by. It's gotta be rough.
Yeah.
But if we catch them and started pulling them along at our speed, eventually they would be at our speed to be able to dock, right? If it worked.
Yes. Like, 'cause, I mean, here's the thing, is like, if you catch them, right, this is kind of like a basic physics question in terms of like, you're taking them from, you know, being very slow to suddenly very quick. And if you could do that over a longer period of time, it's easier on the body, right? It's kind of like a car crash. Is like, the issue isn't like the impact, right? The issue is that you go from moving very fast to not moving very quickly. That's why like crumple zones and airbags work to like slow down that process, right? It's not, overall it's still the same amount of energy. You're just doing it slower. So for them, if you like suddenly clothesline them and drag them along at like 5% the speed of light from whatever they're doing before, you're gonna the meat suit will pop. to put it
will
mildly.
Okay, well, here's a question then, going off of that vein of thinking. I don't know if this is like accurate or not, but I've been told multiple times that like people who are asleep when they get in a car accident like have a better chance of surviving because their bodies relax. Is there a way for them to put themselves like on a like autopilot and like
like, do they have
sleep? Like,
meat sack docking stations?
Yeah, can they like dock their like consciousnesses so their bodies are just, you know, like there's no like trying to take the impact and like holding your body against it. They're just kind of there, and their memory is just like a digital, or their conscious is like I don't know.
Do they have cold storage?
Yeah, can they put themselves to sleep?
Roll a so no, but the idea is kind of giving you what is kind of bouncing around in your head, like you feel like you're like picking at the edge of something. Okay. So roll research.
67.
Nice. Which your research is like stupid, right?
It's 80.
Yeah. Stupid high is what
stupid
I do. So yeah, so you're already like accessing, right, like their information, learning about like their weapon systems and what they have or what could be possibly used. Like I mean, Truth Seeker seeks the truth, but like to see like all of the layers of it and kind of read between lines. Mm-hmm. So they have some material basically on board for like securing mining materials, some of the rocks that they gather onto, stasis pods, things along those lines. You're kind of running through the list of everything they have, and you're like, okay, you realize that from your perspective, at least, there's nothing that can be done about the biological bodies. Mm-hmm. But
I'm following you.
But if
just waiting for it,
if they're off, like if they offload into their stacks, make sure that they are like backed up on that, and they're basically put into like this stasis system gel, as well as like sort of gravitational netting for the mining material. Then the stacks are more likely to survive.
Okay. I basically convey all this to Kaster and ask if this is something that sounds feasible and like that would help them. And then if Kaster, like, I don't know, like basically have you explain it to the miner people, because you understand how that stuff works better than I do.
What, communication? Oh. Anyways,
hello.
That's this one.
Jeez, there's a name.
So Kaster listens really intently and then is like, well, I mean, either way, it's because if you look, regardless, you're using up resources. So even the stack itself, in order to stay good, if you will, has to be linked up, and that'll take up resources. So, I mean, to a certain extent, like, why not just upload them if we care that much?
Simple answer: they don't have any needle casting ability on the ships, right? Like that's not something that
That's why nobody got cast to them too.
Yeah,
We don't have
like
any.
they're not designed for that. This is like hard drive or physical connection only.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm
I know, like,
if I'm
this is so archaic.
Yeah.
Hard copy.
Yeah.
but if I'm assessing
You're saying
this
cord
situation,
goes where?
does that mean, because you said that someone needs to like put the stacks like into a safe storage? Does that mean that one of them doesn't get to go? Or can they put their stack, they can back themselves up into the stack, they can still interact with it. They don't have to, like, if they back up into the stack, they're still in their body. Okay, never mind.
You're good.
I just answered my own
That
question.
sounds like a personal drama that's going to be happening on the ship, but that's outside of your knowledge currently.
Yeah.
But I love that idea.
Also, I feel like
who can put their stacks in
exactly.
the gel,
Yeah,
like,
no, I feel like
Well, do
that's a
they
thing.
have that? Like,
Also, the way I
Are y'all committing to
imagine
picking up the hitchhikers?
the way I
We're
imagine
thinking about
it is that you
we're
would,
figuring it out.
once you get, I would imagine that the bay is like a full service meat suit stack situation, in the sense of like you put the meat suit in the bay, and like if you're downloading, it all goes to like you can pull the stack out, like you have options, right? So what I don't imagine in this scenario is that all of these stacks that we're going to be potentially saving go into some sort of sack of stacks, or a stack sack, if you will.
Well, it's like a gel
it's actually a
stasis pod.
burlap bag in the whole
I have actually been
and it
picturing
says
that for a long time.
Stacks is stenciled on it, but it's misspelled.
They just have a robot that actually just is Bender, and it just opens its case and just shoves all the stacks in there and shuts it until the whole thing's over.
And,
Right,
and he's like, it'll be good.
So I
Time capsule.
had a question and I just lost it. Oh,
Sorry.
do we have any access to information as to this ship's history? Yeah, I know you said it was a mining ship, but like specifically, who's on the ship? How long they've been out in space? How long they've been mining? How long has this operation been kind of taken? Do we have any access to that info?
Sure.
Okay.
What?
I've been researching it. I don't know.
Maybe they're just
I-
pirates.
I could make up some names. There's nothing like distinct, but right now.
Okay. Well, that's good because that's what I'm
It's
looking
not like
for.
a
is
prison work
glaring,
field
obvious.
Yeses or nos.
Blinking red light problem of oh god no.
No flags come up, I would say, like for you in terms of it seems relatively normal.
This is like prison transport, like
No,
being masqueraded.
it's
as
very
mine
like
shit.
there's really clear data on it, very clear records on the ship. It typically goes out on like 2-year round trip hauls heading out to the asteroid belt or out to Saturn, and comes back around, dropping off precious metals, water, etc. They're maybe halfway through a 2-year voyage kind of idea when this happened, but nothing unusual.
Yeah, Vin Diesel is not on this ship.
Damn.
That's good.
No, it's like the only thing that Kaster is bummed about.
It's the only thing I have going
Like,
for
we're
me.
like about to ask that specific question. We're just like, oh, damn. Because that's like what it sounded like in the way that your like sentence went. I was like, how the fuck did you guys like not have you?
No, so here's the thing that Kaster wants to know, that occurs to Kaster suddenly, is like, does this ship have an escape pod?
No.
The mining
No.
ship.
There is
The
no
mining
escape.
ship?
The mining ship. Because ideally, the smallest possible option is the best option to pick up.
I would say they do not actually. Like, I mean, they've got some small stuff that maybe a few people could fit onto,
What
or
is
some
this
small little pieces that go out and help
plebeian-
move. But
What is this
I would
chicken shit
say
operation?
hubris is sort of big with humanity right now.
Right.
Also, our technology is like the top of the line, like space.
No, I know,
flight.
I
You know
know.
what I mean? Like this is like.
And this is the world that Kaster's been living for
yeah.
who knows how long. The only world.
Well,
I know.
These people haven't even been in a virtual, like, it's crazy.
I don't understand why this meat suit moves so slowly. It's so difficult. Like,
Good lord. So we're gonna be taking a break here shortly, but we'll kind of leave us, at least for now, and we can continue like the discussion. We're not quite there yet. But a couple things happen before we get a break. So the ship does pass within, one astronomical unit, so it's like within the Earth's orbit. Earth is on the other side of the sun at this point. Like you're actually going to sort of pass near-ish to it. Space,
where it was?
Space is big. No, I mean the rock is still there.
oh, that's right.
But you'll be passing by, right, as you like head out potentially to pick up these people. But as you pass by that point, you get sort of a message from Andine, who is like, hey, we've got our sensor package like coming online. We're analyzing the vibrations that we were talking about. And, here is at least a first glimpse of what we think that larger structure looks like. We don't have any reading on the smaller ones yet. And it's like this three-dimensional image pops up for all of you. Or in whatever handheld you've got or whatever screen is close. Sure. You kind of see this, and it's like a rotating image. It's blurry and fuzzy. You're kind of looking at what's obviously like a projection of things based upon it's not a visual inspection. It's like piecing together basically like radar images of whatever's bouncing off and getting the vibrations from the sun. But it looks at first image this like all dark, there's no color, anything along those lines. It kind of looks like this large mass, sort of like almost umbrella shaped a bit. And there are sort of like 8 tendrils, sort of like just feeding down from it into the lower depths of the sun. And it's like kind of writhing slowly. And that's where we're going to get a break.
Wow.
Yep.
Is it eating the sun?
And break.
Ejection.
There's